me today. Let me show you how to make a great cup of barley tea. Now, we came across this tea when we were in New York and it was really cold. And we were waiting outside a Korean restaurant and the lady came out with cups of warm barley tea for us to taste. I had never had barley tea before and it was really, really tasty. And when I was writing my book, 7 Pots of Tea, I decided to include barley tea because barley is a really good ingredient to know and have in your pantry to make a cup of tea. So let's get started. I'm going to show you what we have and I'm going to put the kettle on. In here, we have roasted barley. Now, roasted barley is something you can find in an Asian market. It looks kind of like that. I have it in the Zoom shot, and it looks like it looks very brown and dry and all that. So it actually releases all its flavors in the hot water. So we're going to cook this a little bit. And in my tea, I'm going to add some winter special things. We're going to add some oranges. If you like, you can add cloves to it. And I'm going to add, to sweeten it, a little bit of honey. And honey can be a really nice, this is the honey that I have. It's a darker honey. It has a little creamy texture. I'm going to set this aside till we're ready. So while I have my pot of water going, what I'm going to do is per cup, now this is about 3 cups. So per cup, you want to add about 3 teaspoons, 3 large teaspoons or heavily loaded teaspoons of roasted barley. And you want this to start boiling. And the reason I have this in a kettle here is so you can see how the color changes from, just plain ordinary white water to it's going to pick up a really bronzy tan color. Now in here, what I'm going to also do is in my cup, I'm going to have a slice of orange ready to go. Now the peel is still on, and this is important because there are some nutrients and flavors in the peel that you also want. So I'm going to put it at the bottom of the cup. You can add 1, you can add more, but it ends up making a very pretty looking cup. So this takes a few minutes to boil, and let me tell you a little more about barley. Barley is sweet and it has astringent rasas. Now these are properties that are identified in Ayurveda. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Ayurvedic rasa of barley. It is sweet, it is astringent, and it is overall cooling. Now in contrast, the orange itself is sweet and sour, and it is warming. Now when we add honey by taste, the rasa of it is going to be sweet, astringent, and pungent. Now what happens to all of these when you cook is called the post-digestive effect, and that they all end up being just sweet, so they're good for your body in many ways. Now in Ayurveda, all of the ingredients that you use are going to impact your dosha, which in this case, the barley increases the vata, orange increases the pitta and kapha, and honey increases pitta. But when you put them all together in this form, they all balance together. You get to taste all the flavors, and they're all really coming together to make for a helpful brew. Now, when I say tea, most people assume it's going to be something that has to do with tea leaves. Ayurvedic teas, the way I think about teas is they are a way to incorporate herbs and spices into your daily diet without having to rely on the cooking method of putting it in a dish. So in this case, we are able to make it into a tea and still reap the benefits of it without going through the cooking process. And of course, tea is really easy to make. So now we can look at this and see that the water is boiling and it's taking a little time, but you can tell that when you're up close with the blue light, you probably can't tell very much, but you can tell that it's starting to pick up some of the tones. If you feel, and I'm going to take a whiff of this, and it feels really warming and comforting. Warming not from the Ayurvedic perspective, but it feels nice and it wants to get into your bones, and it feels very comforting. It has a light caramel aroma, a woody aroma, which also is nice just when you're holding the cup of tea, and it's very nice to take that whiff and just kind of feel it go into all your being, the pores of your being. Now, as you can tell, the water is turning a little tan, but it's still very light. Now, according to how the now I brought this a little closer so you can see how the barley is literally dancing inside the hot water. And it's taking on a very light tan color. The water is boiled, and look at it. It went from being a clear liquid to picking up this color. This is perfect. If barley is cooked on a low temperature for a very long time, the water tends to get really muddy. So what you want is this boiling hot water. Now, what you can do, and this is optional totally, it's up to you. If you like the aroma and the flavor of cloves, you can add that. That adds a really nice pungent touch to it. But for now, we're not going to add that in. And I'm going to take a little sieve. And these are very useful. You can find these in most Asian stores, in most stores that carry your typical cooking supplies, your kitchen supplies. And you can find this. And this is a very nice and useful tool to have in the kitchen for making teas. This is a fine sieve. A cheesecloth tends to get messy, so I wouldn't want to use that. But what you literally do is pour it over your orange. What this does is pouring the hot liquid over the orange will activate the volatile oils that are in the orange peel. So when you take a whiff of it, even just as is, look at this golden liquid. It really smells aromatic and very fragrant, and of course it has the goodness of the barley, it has the goodness of the orange, and of course if you would like, you can always squeeze some orange juice into it from your fresh orange. Now you can do a couple of things to bump up or amplify the flavor and the aroma of orange. You can always add an orange blossom essence to this, which also makes it very floral. But again, that's one of those ingredients that you can find in an ethnic market or an Asian or a Middle Eastern market. You will find that along with the teas because it is used often in creating these teas. Now, this tastes great as is. If you find that you want to make it a little sweeter, I would recommend adding some honey to it. Now, honey can be found in this form, which is, your regular liquid or semi-solid form, but you can also find honey in this nifty fashion of them being just honey crystals. Now, this is really nice to have on hand in case you're concerned about the sticky aspect of honey, but you can choose one or the other and take a little teaspoon to taste, of course. Let that float in there and let it sweeten to taste. Well, as you can tell, the honey is almost gone because the water was really hot. And there you have it. Your roasted barley and orange tisane. Enjoy.